Ready? I will now call to order the regular City Council meeting of February 12th, 2024. Members of the public are invited to attend in-person meetings in council chambers. Public access to the meeting is also available by telephone by using the call-in numbers posted on the meeting agenda. Meetings are broadcast on Channel 8 for Comcast and Xfinity subscribers and on the city's YouTube channel online. Will the city clerk please call the roll?
Mayor Leidy is absent tonight. Mayor Pro Tem Lukman Hiramasa.
Here.
Councilmember Burns.
Here.
Councilmember Jaramillo.
Here.
Councilmember Kondo.
Here.
Councilmember Roper.
Here.
Councilmember Goff.
Here.
Councilmember Nowicki.
Here.
Councilmember Walker.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager Guyer, are there any responses to resident inquiries?
Nothing this evening, Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Great. Moving into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment on any item not set for public hearing. Statements are limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Statements must be related to city business and limited to matters of community interest. City Clerk Small, is there anyone signed up to speak to council tonight?
Yes, we have two people on the list. The first individual is George Theoharis.
Thank you. George, please come forward, state your name and address or ward, and provide your comments to council, please.
Yes, my name is George Theoharis. I'm at 11248 Larson Lane. I honestly don't know what word that's Ward 2 with Jay. Yeah, I've already spoken with Jay. So the concern I have, it is a personal thing, but it's also something that could affect the community, and I'm very concerned for that. The building department and code enforcement, unfortunately, are operating a little bit outside of what their power should be. And just to give an example, since I'm short on time, and I thought I was actually going to talk at the end, so I was going to gather some more things, but I'll be quick with it. I've already tried to go through the chain of command. I served in the military, so I believe in the chain of command, and I try to allow people to do what they're supposed to do and take accountability and take charge of things. And unfortunately, the situation that happened with me, which is very concerning, is I was deemed, so they told me that my garage needed to be torn down and came out with the building inspector supervisor, Dan Weston, and then also 2 code enforcement officers and 1 in training. And they handed me a notice of violation that stated I needed to tear my garage down and my carport and get a demolish permit and have it down within 7 days. I understand that date is just something that they want you to work with them, so I get that, but at the same token, that notice of violation was already ready and it was handed to me that day. And if you look at my record for my address, they literally did everything within that day. And so when I've pressed the issue on this, what they're trying to say is that they did a quick drive-by. I actually was questioning Dan why he thinks that my garage needed to be torn down. He kept hanging up on me. I came in person to talk to him and was very direct with my questioning to know exactly what specifically was wrong with my garage. It's an old garage. All the houses in our area are very old. So our records only go back 13 years that they check generically. Our structures are old, so if you're only going back 13 years, that's going to negate a lot of permits that might be under Adams Unincorporated. So there was no due diligence done on any research with my garage. And literally the story that they're coming up with is that he was with another code enforcement person and did a quick drive-by on the way to another address. And based on that quick drive-by, he thought my garage didn't look like the other ones. And so therefore, I was served a notice of violation saying that I had to tear the garage down. did no research. If he did any research, it was a quick one just to see if it was in records within the last 13 years. My garage is definitely older. It's definitely painted and looks nice, but you could tell by the structure it's older. But to just do a drive-by, my dad's president of a neighborhood association in Wichita, Kansas. He's been doing this stuff for 20 years. And no city I've talked to, they do a quick drive-by and then present you with the notice of violation saying you must demolish that structure. My garage is part of my main structure. It might not have been built with the original structure, but there is a permit for it in unincorporated Adams. And all they had to do is do that research. But before they did that, they wanted to serve some harmless guy a notice saying that I have to tear my garage down and I have 7 days to do that. So if I just would have went along with what Dan Weston said and didn't do my research and push the issue with the chain of command, I would have torn my garage down. And it's just sad that I was even put in that situation when there was no research done, simply a quick drive-by. And that is very alarming. There's actually some other issues that I wanted to talk about, but I'm very limited on time and I don't want to take other people's time. I see you guys have a lot on your agenda. Didn't know you guys cover so much, but I appreciate your time and I hope I can reach out to one of you and we can talk about this further. So thank you.
Thank you, sir. City Manager Guyer, is that something that you can follow up with this gentleman for?
I can. He has been in communication with Jason Loveland, our deputy city manager. So George, I'll reach out to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
We have your contact information and we'll talk about next steps.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
I'd love to talk to you.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have anyone else?
Yes, the second individual on the list is Sita Kohler.
So I'm so sorry, I did a mistake, I came with him.
Okay, thank you. No worries.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak to council at this time? Anyone? Is there anyone else in the audience who did not have a chance to sign up who would like to speak to council? No? Okay, thank you. We have 2 proclamations tonight, so I invite council to please join me downstairs on the floor.
No, just need to push it up. Just push it up.
Testing, okay. Welcome, everyone. We have 2 proclamations tonight, and the first one is American Heart Month. I would love to invite City of Northglenn Special Events Coordinator Ashley Garst, Ashley's husband Sam, and their daughter Edelyn to accept the proclamation. Welcome. That sweet baby. Somebody's tired, rubbing eyes. Hi. Hi, sweetie. Okay. Whereas heart disease remains the leading cause of death for people in the United States, claiming approximately 659,000 lives each year. And whereas cardiovascular diseases accounted for 1 in 3 deaths in Colorado in 2023, making it the leading cause of death in our state. And whereas American Heart Month is a vital opportunity to raise awareness about heart health and empower people to take proactive steps to prevent heart disease. And whereas American Heart Month includes Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week, February 7th through the 14th. Congenital heart defects are America's most common birth defect, affecting nearly 40,000 babies each year in the US, which means approximately every 15 minutes. A baby is born with a congenital heart defect. And whereas Congenital Heart Defect Awareness Week promotes awareness and education about congenital heart defects, initiatives to improve newborn screening, and funding needed to research the causes of birth defects, and provide advancements in medicine and treatment to enable infants to live into adulthood. And whereas it is essential for individuals to know their risk factors
and take action to live a heart-healthy lifestyle, including regular physical activity, a heart-healthy diet, maintaining a healthy weight, avoiding smoking, managing stress, getting regular checkups from healthcare professionals, and knowing the signs of congenital heart disease in infants and children. And whereas these special observances provide an opportunity for families who have been affected by heart disease and congenital heart defects to celebrate life, remember loved ones they have lost, honor healthcare professionals, and share information with the public. Now, therefore, I, Shannon Lukman Hiromasa, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Northglenn, Colorado, do hereby proclaim February 2024 as American Heart Month in the City of Northglenn and urge all residents to prioritize their health by adopting healthy lifestyles and support initiatives that promote heart disease awareness and prevention. Dated at Northglenn, Colorado, this 12th day of February 2024. Before I invite you to say a few words, I'd like to say I was both honored and it was also very difficult to get through that proclamation. Not a lot of people know, but I lost my grandson to a congenital heart defect. He lived for 10 minutes. And so I understand he had a very critical heart defect. He graced our lives for 10 minutes of his beautiful little life. Our family has taken steps to create awareness and help fund those scientific studies and advances because that's extremely important. My daughter is a leader on the Regional Council for Congenital Heart Defects for the Children's Heart Foundation in Colorado, and so she's in charge of doing the fundraising walks that are held every year. I would love to invite you and your family, Ashley, to share your story and say a few more words if you'd like. And thank you all for bearing with me. That was very difficult to read.
Well, thank you for sharing your story and sharing that. I'm so sorry and honored that you shared that with us. We practiced something predicting to see the mayor this evening. I'm not sure if we'll quite do it.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor, there. But yes, this is our little heart warrior. Edie has been thriving since her first 69 days were spent at Children's. And we are very, very grateful for the technology advancements and all of the professionals in the Heart Institute at Children's. And we're very honored to accept the proclamation tonight. And we just do what we can to raise awareness and hope that technological advances and fundraising continue to grow. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Actually, you guys can go right on the end there, and Mayor Pro Tem, you can go in the middle. I think it works. Oh, so go to the other side of condo, please. All right, there we go. All right. Let's see. Ellen, are you looking? Are you smiling? Say hi. Hi. Everybody say cheese. Cheese. Everybody said go for a jog. All right, thanks everybody.
Autumn is. Right. I was looking for Celeste.
The other person, Taylor, said she sent an email.
Our next proclamation is Black History Month. We have Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board members Autumn Romero and Celeste Jackson to accept the proclamation. Celeste? No. We have Autumn here.
Say about Celeste. Are you talking about Celeste? No. Okay.
And,
It's up to you.
I do have a little bit more information. The DICE board partnered with Northland Arts to fund increased marketing and provide free tickets to Dasha Kelly Hamilton's Make and Cake spoken word performance, which features storytelling about race, culture, and class throughout America's history. The event will be held on February 24th at the Parsons Theater, and the generous support from the DICE board will make this event more accessible to members of our community. Okay. Whereas Black History Month is a time for us all to reflect on and celebrate the significant contributions Black Americans have made to our nation's history, culture, and achievements. And whereas the theme for 2024, African Americans and the Arts, illustrates the extraordinary impact that Black artists, writers, musicians, filmmakers, designers, and other creators have had on the artistic landscape of the United States and the entire world. And whereas art has provided a means for historic preservation, community building, and empowerment for Black Americans for generations. Entire genres and cultural movements would not exist without these artistic expressions, including blues, jazz, gospel, hip-hop, soul food, fashion, Afrofuturism, and many more. And whereas, by highlighting the arts during Black History Month, we acknowledge the achievements of Black creators who have enriched our lives and communities with extraordinary creativity, innovation, and talent. And whereas, locally, Northland Arts is celebrating Black artists in February with performances at the Parsons Theater by Mary Louise Lee and Robert Johnson, Dasha Kelly Hamilton, and the Cleo Parker Robinson Dance Company. And whereas Black History Month provides an opportunity for our community to honor the legacy of Black artists, past and present, who have used their platforms to challenge stereotypes, advocate for social justice, and promote unity and understanding through art. And whereas the City of Northland is committed to advancing racial justice and equity, we seek to promote cultural awareness, inspire dialogue, and build bridges that strengthen the bonds of our diverse community. Now therefore I, Shannon Lukeman Hiromasa, Mayor Pro Tem of the City of Northland, Colorado, do hereby proclaim February 2024 as Black History Month in the City of Northland and encourage all community members to celebrate this special observance, become more knowledgeable about Black heritage, and draw inspiration from the enduring legacy and contributions of Black Americans. Dated at Northland, Colorado, this 12th day of February 2024. Autumn, would you like to say a couple words?
Celeste was actually supposed to say a few words, so I am not prepared. But what I would say is that Black History Month shouldn't be relegated to a month. It should be something that we weave into the fabric of our everyday lives and should be celebrated every day of the year. So I'm glad that we have this proclamation, and I'm glad that we get to highlight these voices, but we need to do a better job of doing it throughout the year.
Thank you. That's your hand.
Sorry. Mic drop.
Mic drop.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Keep smiling. Keep smiling. Somebody always blinks, so I have to take a lot. All right.
It's usually me.
Thank you. Appreciate you. Sorry about that.
Did it break?
Thank you. It looks like we have one presentation, Economic Activity Study of Metro Denver Culture, and we have Executive Director Kristen Crampton Day from the Colorado Business Committee for the Arts, who will give this presentation to council. Yes? We have Allison,
Well, I'm
our
just going to do
director.
a quick introduction. Michael Stricker is also here from
Okay.
And we just wanted to invite Kristen to give a brief presentation about CBCA. She'll be talking about the impact that arts has given our investments in arts and the impact on the business community as well. So I will welcome Kristen up to the podium to give her a presentation.
Thank you, Director Moding. Welcome, Kristen.
Thank you. I'm going to move this up just a little bit. There we go. Can you all hear me okay? Okay. I feel like I'm kind of leaning in, but thank you, Allison. As she said, I'm Kristen Crampton Day. I'm the Executive Director at Colorado Business Committee for the Arts. I always have to ask in the room, how many of you have heard of CBCA? Quick show of hands. A few, so we've got some work to do. CBCA is a 39-year-old nonprofit 501c3 organization. This is our 30th year of producing this economic report that looks at the nonprofit arts and cultural and scientific sector in our 7-county region. So I'm gonna dig into some data. Feel free to ask questions along the way. I'll try to leave some time at the end to also answer some questions. But as I said, we've been doing this study for 30 years. One of the primary differences is we worked with a research firm, BBC Consulting, to produce this study. There's a in-depth white paper for those of you data nerds that want even more detail, but I'm gonna hit some of the highlights tonight. So I'm gonna see if I can work the clicker here. Let's see. Where am I? Is it working? Where am I pointing?
She just aims it over here.
That's what I did. Oh, I didn't click hard enough. I just need to click harder. So again, a little bit about who we are. CBCA's mission is to advance Colorado's creative economy by connecting business and the arts. And we do that through advocacy, research, training, engagement, and volunteerism in the arts. As I mentioned, this study that I'm primarily going to focus on is one of the seminal things that we do that really validates the economic impact of our sector. I also want to mention that our mission is statewide, even though this study is a regional study. We were founded on the National Business Committee for the Arts model that was founded in 1967 by David Rockefeller, that really understood the benefits between the intersection of arts and business. So around the country, there's a few other organizations like CBCA, but most of them tend to be city-focused, and we are statewide focused in our mission. Also, we're a membership organization. So we have members from North Glen and from throughout the region that are supportive of our mission and understand the value at this intersection. There we go. So the first thing I want to talk a little bit about is this data comes from 2022. So we're looking at data collected through the Scientific Cultural Facilities District, or SCFD. Again, raise of hands. Who in the room knows who SCFD is? I know all of you do. Okay. Most people, which is great. So it's that 1 penny tax that's collected on every $10 a consumer spends, which equates to about $80 million a year that gets distributed through the 7-county metro region, and is the envy of other parts of the state who wish they had the SCFD. So we do this study in partnership with the SCFD. As I said, we've been working on this for 30 years with them. So we have longitudinal trends. We can look back 30 years and see how the sector was performing then. We also, of course, reference a lot of BC or before COVID, the 2019 data, which is very relevant. The last study that we produced was actually in 2021, where we looked at 2019 and 2020 side by side so that we could really see the impact of the pandemic on the sector. Some of these categories I'm going to go through were down almost 50%, so it had a very strong impact. So people were really excited about this study that we released in November of 2023, so just at the end of last year, so it's pretty fresh data, because they really wanted to see how well did the sector recover. So that's what we're going to dig into. One other thing I want to mention, I think it's important to say what the data is, but also what it is not. And so it's really important to clarify, this is all grantee organizations that receive funding from the SCFD, which is about 300 organizations in the 7-county metro region. It does not include higher ed academic institutions. It does not include city or state-funded things like Red Rocks, for example, did their own economic impact study this year. It does not include the for-profit arts or creative industries. So an individual artist or solopreneur does not include those folks. So when I talk about these numbers, imagine how exponentially larger these numbers would be if we went beyond this nonprofit 7-county region and included statewide all of the arts and creative industries. So keep that in mind. And just how we get this data, our economic activity and impact are calculated using, this is the fancy words, Regional Input-Output Modeling System, or RIMS-2 multipliers from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis. And all data is presented in the aggregate. So, what we learned in 2022 is that it was a year of record-breaking recovery. And the total economic impact was $2.6 billion. Yes, that's billion with a B, for the nonprofit arts and cultural sector in the 7-county region. You can see from the slide that's a 72% increase over 2020, our last study, which again isn't a surprise given that was the pandemic. But we also wanted to compare it to pre-pandemic with the 2019, and you can see there's still growth, 13.6%. So what this says is not only have we recovered, but we've hit record-breaking economic activity. How do we define economic activity? That is really, if you think of it as the ripple effect. So if you are going to a show at the Parsons, you might go out to dinner beforehand, you might, take an Uber. All those things are ripple effect that's from our arts and cultural sector that support our economy. So that's that big number. Okay. Oh, now I went too far. Okay, good. So this really breaks down the economic activity as we talk about the capital expenditures, the audience, which is a big one. What does the audience spend? And then operating expenditures. So again, you can see year over year from 2019, that pre-pandemic where we were at with those, and now where we're at in 2022, that makes up that $2.6 billion. I will note, you can see capital expenditures are down. It was just the timing of this particular year. We fully anticipate there were a number of capital campaigns from arts and cultural nonprofits in 2023. So we imagine when we do our next study in 2025 that capital will go back up. It just, I'm trying to remember, when was Parsons completed? Was that that's what I thought. So that would have been in our 2021 study. There we go. So historic federal investment. This is really important from the latest data because it was an anomaly. Thankfully, we did have this historic federal support, but as I dig into this a little bit more, it was both a blessing and now a challenge for the sector. So you can see 81 million in federal funding, which I kind of laugh at this number, a 2,754.2% increase over 2019. So again, really extraordinary investment. Things like ARPA, the Save Our Stages Act, all these different COVID relief bills that continued to support. The key thing here is those funds have now been fully exhausted. So it creates a challenge moving forward for these arts and cultural nonprofits to make up the federal funds that are lost when in some aspects the sector has not fully recovered, and we'll dig into that a little bit more. Let's see. Cultural tourism was another area that was really nice to see not only recovery but growth from our 15% over pre-pandemic levels. So cultural tourism is people coming into the region that do not reside here because they are coming to an arts and cultural or scientific organization. So we know that our sector brings people into the regional economy. And again, we saw not only recovery, but growth, which is really, really important. And I think just those are critical dollars because they weren't already within our regional economy. There we go. Workforce impact. So the cultural sector, again, we've seen growth over the years in our nonprofit arts and cultural sector. Of course, there were a lot of layoffs during the pandemic. It's nice to see that a lot of those jobs came back in the sector. So there we go, one more. The sector now employs 13,551 people, where again, this was a substantial increase over 2020, but 2019 again has been a little bit of growth from pre-pandemic, but again, not only recovery, but growth of employment. This is including, think of a range of positions from musicians, curators, educators, to people working in nonprofit arts from marketing, development, administrative, and customer service positions. The cultural workforce is also receiving higher wages, which means higher operational costs for these organizations. And again, that's in order to compete with the rest of the job market. Going back to our first study that CBCA produced in 1993, 20% of the organizations surveyed reported that they were all volunteer. And now in 2022, only 5.6% of the organizations are all volunteer. So not only do these arts and cultural organizations represent a substantial workforce, but they are also creating jobs. One other thing that we were trying to get more qualitative research around, because the SCFD from their grantee reports are not able to ask these questions directly. A lot of times people want to understand the demographics of the folks employed in the industry as well as attendance. What we did hear qualitatively from these organizations is that they've all been investing a lot in DEI or EDI work as organizations within their hiring practices, as well as within the work that they do. And I could go a lot more deep on the qualitative there, but again, unfortunately, I don't have specific quantitative numbers to share since that is not a standard question that SCFD is able to ask, but people always ask about. So this goes to, I mentioned that personnel expenses have increased. We now have 246 million in those jobs that we just talked about. You can see there's a 15.3% increase in what we're paying folks in the sector pre-pandemic levels. So remember that 15%, because I'm going to talk about that in a minute. We're paying people 15% more. But now I'm going to talk a little bit about attendance, if my slide cooperates with me. Okay, so attendance. Total contributions to the organizations, you can see, oh wait, this jumped 2 forward. That's, gosh, jumped 3. There we go. Okay. Sorry about the PowerPoint challenges here. So 12.9 million is what the in-person attendance was in the 7-county metro region. You can see that that is a 15.6% decrease over 2019. So when I talk about a 15% increase in wages, it's also attendance is an area that has not yet recovered for the sector. I think it really depends on who you talk to. I talked to some tier 1s, 2s, and 3s, and it's really all over the place. Some of them are selling out their shows, they're doing great, and others have definitely not seen that recovery. People have found other activities or slow to come back. So that's something that we're working to continue to promote, because attendance based on 2022 is not yet recovered. And that creates a math problem. If you're spending 15% more on your personnel, but you're getting 15% in spending, that creates some challenges. And as I mentioned, those federal funds are dried up and they've gone away. I guess I just do not have the touch with this clicker, and then I went too forward again. Hey, hold on. Okay, let's talk about education. So SCFD, really, I mean, their tagline is Arts for All, and their brand is really focused on how do we get the arts to everyone in our communities. And so, as you can imagine, during the pandemic, with schools shut down, virtual learning, you can see a 65% increase over 2020 because they weren't able to do a lot of the education and outreach during the pandemic. But it's still an area that has not recovered pre-pandemic as well. We know that there's been some attrition within arts education. Already, a lot of schools don't have independent arts educators, and we lost a lot of those folks during the pandemic. CBCA also does advocacy work and policy work, and we recently have been conducting a survey about policy priorities, and one of the things we're hearing is arts education loud and clear because of the huge impact. So more to come on that, but hopefully we'll see in the next study this number go back up, but we know that it's one that has not yet recovered. Support for the arts. So this is the graph that I had jumped ahead before in terms of overall spending. You can see that SCFD is the largest piece of the pie at 27%. It is our largest funder of nonprofit arts and culture in our 7-county region. So we're very fortunate to have that SCFD support. Individual continues to be on the rise, as well as government support. What we see is that foundations, corporations can be a little more fickle with the economy and other priorities, and that can be a little, that although we saw increases in both of those in this past study, that's one that tends to be a little bit more volatile, especially the corporate. If it's an uncertain economy, the belt tightening that happens there, sponsorships, all that kind of thing. So, and then in-kind continues to be an important offset as well. Okay, and then this shows you, again, kind of year over year, sort of how those contributions looked. And you can see, you know, in 2019, SCFD was almost 30% at 29%. So even though I think it's interesting because even though the amount of money that SCFD brings in through that tax has increased, the other areas have grown, which I think is really good, that we're seeing other areas pick up as well. So this is where you can get more information about the full study. There's some information here about volunteerism. I will say volunteerism is down, which might not surprise some of you. You know, volunteers tend to be older folks who are retired and they have more time to give back to their communities. And some of those people didn't feel comfortable coming back after the pandemic. So the volunteer support, again, depending on the organization you're talking to, if they have a very small staff, a very small team, they often rely a lot on their volunteers. And so it's important to keep that in mind, that we need to continue to rebuild the volunteer sector as well, because we did definitely see quite a bit of attrition. And there's more information about that with the full study. So I think that's it. Oh, thanks to all of our sponsors of this study. US Bank is our presenting sponsor, and then you can see a lot of the other folks that contributed to our study. Okay, that might be the end. Sorry about the, the challenges, but do you have any questions?
Yeah, it does look like we have a couple of questions, but first of all, I just want to say thank you for that presentation. I know the mayor is on the board, and she is out of town due to a family emergency, so she
Oh,
can't
I'm
be here, but.
Sorry to hear that, because she said, I'm
Yeah,
going to see you, so I
She
wondered.
was looking forward to this, I know, but we do have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Councilmember Condo?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So, Executive Director Day, I wonder if you can talk a little bit about the Broomfield First Bank Event Center as a case study. Because it's very interesting, right? We here are considering perhaps an event center at the Stonehawker area. It's a farm area. And, you know, it seems to me, first of all, very informative, great presentation. I really appreciate that. The thing that's interesting is on slide 22, that very last slide, where government as a contributor to monies, you know, went from 11% to over a quarter.
Right,
And I think you're also saying that that money is probably going to go away.
correct.
So, you know, we're starting to think about potentially building our own event center. And I wonder if the Broomfield First Bank Event Center is instructive in kind of helping us understand maybe that maybe there are success stories, but also failure stories that we got to be careful about.
Yeah, you know, that's an interesting question. I mean, I would say, having attended shows at the Broomfield Event Center, I think, you know, the model's a little different in that they would bring in more for-profit performers. And I think, you know, the size is something to consider based on your community. And I don't know what kind of studies they did before they built it, but I know the shows that I attended, and this is just my own personal experience, was everything from the Wiggles when my, you know, kids were little, to seeing, you know, music with, you know, popular bands. And every time I was there, half the center was closed down. So to me, that said that they sort of overbuilt to the community and what they were able to sell. But again, our particular study, it's hard to say, you know, specific to that. I would just think it would be really important to do, you know, a pro forma as to kind of what the community needs and can support. Then I look at something like Mission Ballroom in Denver, which I would say is kind of a similar kind of venue in terms of the type of acts that they would bring in and support. And every show I've been to Mission Ballroom is sold out. Again, I know it's in a trendy part of Denver, a growing part of Denver, but if anything, maybe it could have been a little larger. So I think, you know, really looking at what is the community, the data going to support now, but into the future with your anticipated growth. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how to answer what didn't work with Broomfield, but certainly I think it's important to do that kind of research up front.
Yeah, I was just looking at this while you were speaking. The First Bank Center has about 6,500 seats, whereas the Mission 4,000, Fillmore 3,700.
Yeah.
So It sounds like what you're telling us is if we are to seriously think about and proceed with our own event center, we better be very thoughtful about the scale and whether it's appropriate for the, how should I say this, for the demand for entertainment in this particular area. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would also look at what other venues, what other sizes, like look at the entire inventory in the 7-county metro region, because there was a understanding of there being a lot of very large venues and very small venues. And those medium size are the ones that really seem to do well and that the nonprofit arts community really could use. I know, for example, if you look at the Denver Performing Arts Complex, I mean, they have, certain 2,500 seats in the LA Calkins, for example, or actually I think it's closer to 3,000 with the renovation. And depending, there's only certain companies that can fill that, Colorado Ballet, Opera Colorado, but then you have all these other nonprofits that need performance spaces, but they're either too small or too large generally. I used to be the executive director prior to this of Ballet Nouveau Colorado in Broomfield, which rebranded as Wonderbound, and Colorado Conservatory of Dance is the school. And because of lack of venues, Ballet Nouveau would perform at Pace Charter School because they had a 500-seat auditorium, and that was the sweet spot we were looking for. So I guess my advice is look at the entire inventory of the region and see where those gaps are, and then think about your community as well and what it will support.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Councilmember Kondo. Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you for your presentation. Are there any, and maybe this ties into Councilmember Kondo's question, kind of projections for attendance? Any data along those lines?
We don't have that yet. Again, it depends on who I talk to. Like, I've heard, attendance at the Denver Art Museum is down, where like if I talk to Cherokee Ranch and Castle Foundation and Sedalia, they're, selling out all of their teas and their events and all the things that they do there. So it really varies. So right now it's more anecdotal. About, theater, there's been a lot of national data about theater in particular is down nationally, and Denver Metro is actually performing better than the rest of the country with theater. I don't know if that's in part because the DCPA is the largest nonprofit theater organization in the country, and they bring in a lot of shows that get tested out in Denver. Like we were the first to bring in Hamilton outside of Broadway. We get a lot of those opportunities, and so I think maybe that helps us perform better there. But what I have heard is that nationally it's a real problem. So it tends to be performing arts where we're seeing more of the decline. But then, I heard, like I said, anecdotally, that the Denver Art Museum, which is visual arts, is down. So it's really hit or miss, and we don't have any projective data at this point, just looking backwards. Yep.
Very interesting. I am just curious, and maybe this is a question for Michael Stricker, our Arts Community and Culture Manager. I got that right. I hear that our performances are doing really well at the theaters. I don't know if you could speak a little bit to that, hearing that the Denver metro area is doing a little bit better, maybe than, other places. I think that's important because my understanding is we have some really great shows, especially for Black History Month, as we mentioned before, and they're very well attended. Is that the case there? Please? Yeah, please, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. I am Michael Stricker. I'm the Arts, Culture, and Community Manager for the city. I will be back here on March 25th to give you a whole report on it. So the news is really good. So we, thankfully, because we opened our facility in 2021, and because we have a an appropriate sized staff to handle the new facility. We've really ramped up programming and it's been going very, very well. So I'll have many more details for you on March 25th for that.
Thank you. I'm sure we're all looking forward to that.
Yes.
Do we have any other questions? You do? Okay, Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you,
For
Mayor.
Kristen?
I just want to say this thank you to the Colorado Business Committee for the Arts. I think, reading through all the impact it has as an artist, I want to thank you. I'm one of the 13,551 people that, that was, hired as an arts and culture specialist and also as a artist, muralist, sculptor. So this is great. I'm glad that there's organizations that are promoting the arts and empowering people to do their passion, but also people to enjoy it and, art for the public, whether it's visual or performing. I think that North Bend's really leading the way in a lot of that. And I have more updates from NAHF coming soon for communications, so I'm excited. So thanks. We're talking art, so, I think this is what I love. So thank you, guys.
Thank you, Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you.
It doesn't look like we have any more questions, so I just want to say thank you so much for your presentation and for all of that information. And the arts and culture are definitely very important, and we all understand that. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. And I did bring some one-page summaries that Michael has that kind of gives you a very easy one-page highlight. If you want to refer back to it. But, yeah, thank you so much for inviting us. We appreciate it. And you do have a really thriving, thanks to what Michael and others are doing here in North Bend. And excited to see it grow. So thank you for your investment in the sector.
Thank you so much for your time. Great, moving into communications. Let's start with Ward 1, Councilmember Burns.
Hi, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Yes, happy Lunar New Year to everybody. Thank you to everyone who came and spoke in front of council. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day this evening. It's been a little while, so I do have a few updates here. Starting with, we went to the Adams County dinner, meeting with our fellow colleagues, municipalities, and council members from other cities here in Adams County. It was great to sort of reconnect with everyone in the new year, hear about everyone's 2024 plans, and sort of just, what everyone's priorities are and how we can all work together and support each other towards those goals. I then went to my first youth commission meeting. Very exciting about that. Excited to have them join us at NCL next month. We also got a presentation from Rocky Mountain Partnerships. They're looking for political influencers. So if you are a high schooler out there and would like to be a part of that group, please do reach out to me or the youth commission as well. And they also discussed how to work through their community project. So I'm excited to see, they're going to be presenting to us, I think, in 2 weeks. So very exciting to hear more about that. Councilmember Walker and I also interviewed a CCPP board member. I believe she's here tonight. Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for the short turnaround and to be here. We really, really appreciate that. So we'll be putting her forward for CCPP. And my final piece here, it's finally snowing here in the metro area. And Councilmember Walker and I have had some thoughts about how we could better improve our snowstormer program. Right now there's a wait list. Right now it's not very community-based, so you might get matched with someone across town, which we don't want anyone driving sort of in 8 inches of snow to go shovel driveways. It is a very popular program as well. And so we would just like council consensus for Diana's, her team to sort of take a look at how we can improve upon this current program. Because it is going to take more than an hour per time presently.
So city manager, what would that entail? Just consensus for that? Is that just more research on Diana's part to make this happen?
Yes,
Or-
the consensus would be giving me direction to work with Diana and her team to bring back a study session item that will walk council through the current Snowstormers program, the volunteer base, And then my understanding is how can we address the wait list? We do have a pretty big wait list, and also address the administrative legal challenges in terms of some initial brainstorming that we've done internally that present roadblocks. That may not make sense, but that's just an overall take on, we've got to work through some legal challenges in terms of client confidentiality and things of that nature. So we'll bring back recommendations to council of how we can move things forward.
Okay, understood. I know personally, I've tried to help seniors, and the waiting list is pretty long. So I personally would love to have a study session and learn more about that. Do we have council consensus to make that happen? Looks like we do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all for my first consensus. So really appreciate
Good
it. Yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker.
Thank you. Two quick things tonight. The legislative committee met. There's a lot happening down at the State House in Denver, but there's not a lot of rubber on the road on a lot of these bills. So the only one that's kind of concerning to us, or that I want to bring to your attention, is the House Bill 1107, the judicial review of local land use decisions. And basically why that is important to us is there are, in the past, you've been able to basically roadblock and sue land use decisions and basically delay projects. Well, now the people who will be suing those developments will have to put skin in the game, as they may have to pay attorney fees. So they can't just use it as a tool anymore. It's going to have to be a legitimate request. So that could be important for us down the road. The only other thing is something that Ms. Shannon mentioned last time. We do have the legislative breakfast under the dome Friday, March 22nd, 7:30 a.m. with Rep. Wilford and Senator Winter. That is it. Thank you.
Thank you for mentioning that again. Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I attended the Northglenn Arts and Humanities Foundation. Our meeting this past Wednesday, and we covered our long-range plan, and we have an executive summary, which Michael will talk to you more about it, but I'll let a little bit of the cat out the bag with that. We've made $425,000+ in revenue, 2023, and so that's very substantial for our performing arts at Parsons Theater. So that's up 60,000 from the year before. So we're doing great. Also, I served on the Arts on Parade selection committee. So that's you'll see the sculptures coming soon at E.B. Raines Park, and you'll be sure to vote for your favorite, because the People's Choice will become part of the permanent collection, and it is purchased with grant funding and everything through the per capita funds, as we mentioned. Everything that you heard, it's through that program. It's not through the city's general fund. So just that's always a question I get. It's like, no, it becomes an asset to the city. I also attended the NADA meeting. That's the North Area Transportation Alliance. And then on Wednesday, I'll be attending the ADCOG Sub-Regional Transportation Forum. So they fit hand in hand together. And also the Adams County, I forgot the one that we had at Buffalo Run. I forgot the whole name.
ADCOG.
Yeah, it was an ADCOG dinner. Okay. So, yep, attended that as well. And, yeah, we have a new DICE board member coming soon we're gonna actually, she's gonna be on the consent agenda, so I wanted to congratulate her. Let's see if we're very, excited about, bringing in new people to serve on our DICE board, and I want to just thank everybody that had the presentation earlier from Black History Month, and also the Heart Association. I forget the whole term for it, and my heart goes out to you and your family too. So you're welcome, and that's all I have.
Thank you, Councilmember Jaramillo. Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So a few things, I'll go through this, I'm pretty busy, so I'll try and breeze through this. So as Councilmember Jaramillo mentioned, we did complete our DICE board interviews. Thank you to everybody who participated in that. We did put forth a candidate, and she will be here later this evening. I did also attend the AdCog event to meet with other legislators in Adams County, and that was a great event. It was a lot of positive energy, a lot of kind of new faces. I think everyone's kind of excited, to see how they can kind of work toward bettering Adams County. And thank you to Commerce City for hosting. So I did have the opportunity to attend the chili contest at the Senior Center, which was fantastic. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you to Councilmember Kondo for ducking out so that I was able to go. And I'm actually the liaison for the senior board as well, so it was a nice introduction. Thank you to the city staff, Michael, Kate, Kyle, for helping kind of orient me. Fellow judges, city staff member Chris, Officer Chris Miller, and Sergeant John Brown. I think I got to taste like 20 or 30 different chilies, so it was awesome. It was great. I love chili. I did get to meet with the city staff to address the plan for homelessness, so I appreciate all of the city staff for being there and being present and kind of orienting me to that process as well. I do feel the city has a good proactive plan for kind of addressing homelessness, and we'll continue to work toward that here from the dais. I also attended the AC Rep Legislative Dinner. Again, got to talk with legislators in Adams County and around in the region, as well as business owners, trying to kind of make those connections and to really kind of support economic development in Adams County and subsequently North Glen. We did have our first finance committee meeting where I was selected as the chair of the finance committee with my council member Walker here to serve as the vice chair. So I look forward to kind of diving into the budget and going through that and exploring that. Lastly, I did attend the ACMCYA ceremony, the Adams Commission Youth Commission ceremony. I'm butchering that. I apologize. At Parsons Theater, and it was an excellent opportunity. It was inspiring to see the young people there that, given the difficulties they've experienced, how they're able to kind of persevere. And I think it was a good opportunity for the community to really celebrate that. So I would encourage you all, if it comes up next year, to consider attending. I think it really underscored a couple of things I was struck by, just how much COVID impacted young people, right? Especially young people in school, and the concerns around some of the mental health issues as a result of COVID, and then in addition to just life stuff. So I think that stood out to me. That was all of it. So thank you everyone for that.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. First of all, I've attended several meetings, nothing really actionable for this day's members here, but Dr. Cog and Rocky Flats Stewardship Council, and there will be some potential changes coming up for Rocky Flats Stewardship Council that we're contemplating. And much like we will be doing here with our strategic plan in March, we're going to do a similar sort of activity in April to try and figure out what Rocky Flats Stewardship Council 2.0 might look like. And hopefully it'll be a little bit more responsive to, residents' concerns and what their information needs are. I do have a couple other things, not necessarily for this board, but just more informational. It's a strange irony that this is a time of birth, death, and renewal. And I just thought it would be interesting for our community to know that the old North Glen Rec Center demolition just started today. I had a tear in my eye as watching that from the parking lot because I learned how to swim in that pool. But yet, the irony is you turn 180 and you get to see our new city hall being built. And, that is the cycle of life. And I just wanted to make sure that people understood that, progress in part is you have to destroy something to make something new. And then on the theme of cycle of life, I do want to, I was hoping that Tom Lampo would be here, but I do want to acknowledge the death of 3 Georgia National Guardsmen and the 5 Marines that happened within the last 2 weeks. If you hadn't watched in the news, it's very tragic and unfortunate. And then lastly, just for myself personally, I attended my karate sensei's funeral on on Saturday, and quite an influential individual, sensei, teacher. And I just wanted to share with you that I think part of the way I am was influenced by those years that I spent in the 70s in the dojo, and the whole nature of Wado Kai was achieving inner strength of character by having self-control and humility. And I think that was an indelible impression on me. And I just wanted to say that, have that in the public record. Kurobane Sensei, a great man. And again, you know, life and death, we all will experience this, hopefully on a positive note. You know, rebirth is the thing that I think is really important for us. And when we go into our strategic planning in March, I definitely look forward to working with this body on trying to figure out how to renew and make our city stronger. And thank you.
Agreed. Thank you so much for sharing that. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Well, in light of the length of our agenda, I'll keep it pretty short. I did attend some of the same events, the AC Rep and Adams County Council of Governments dinners and the Adams County Mayors and Commissioners Youth Award. I think that's what it is. But then also on, I think it was Friday night, I did attend the gathering of Adams County state legislators and Conservation Colorado, and we just did some talking about legislation coming up that we hope will improve our quality of life and cut down on some of our ozone and other particulate matter problems in our air in this area. And I guess that's it. That's it for me.
Thank you. Councilmember Roper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I get this is the first of being one of the last boards to share. We also went to many of the same things. But Councilmember Nowicki and I had the honor of touring the new City Hall, and that was fantastic. We were able to see the beautiful craftsmanship and then just so many of the intentional behind-the-scenes architectural features. So that was a wonderful experience. I can't wait for everyone to see it. I also attended the Adams County Mayor Commission's Youth Awards, and they were able to honor 20 students. And the thing that really stood out to me was just the grit and resiliency that the students demonstrated in the face of adversity. And it was a real honor to be there at that event. I also attended my first Parks and Rec board meeting, and we had a presentation on the Aquifer Storage Project by Environmental Manager Tamara Moon. And this was really fascinating. They have now finished drilling, and they will soon begin testing the pump and also testing the water. This piloting process will go on for about next year. Also, council members, if you are interested in going out and seeing the process, they're open to that. Some other things that they brought up is just the progress on the Kiwanis Pool project, the Fox Run Playground, the safety improvements as far as lighting that have been made at Rains, and that they are also working on a mini grant to purchase electric maintenance equipment. Those are really fabulous things. Thank you.
Thank you. As you mentioned, it's now my term, and I am the last one, and I have attended pretty much every event that everyone else has attended. Councilmember Kondo and I did attend the Blueprint Task Force for Adams 12. That's one thing you didn't mention. And the next meeting is tomorrow. We do have 3 meetings total, and it is to give input for Adams 12 strategic planning process for their upcoming strategic plan. And it is, there's elected officials, there's teachers, there's parents, there's business owners, so they have a wide variety of community members that are giving input. So that should be very interesting to see how that goes. I attended the AdCog dinner. I attended the AC Rep reception, so I won't spend much time talking on that. One thing that I did attend that wasn't mentioned is we had a grand opening for a new business in the marketplace, and that is Mochi Nut. So if you would love to go check them out and support another small business, please do so. They are fantastic. They have the most delicious Thai iced coffee, because I did have one. I'm an avid coffee drinker, so I had to have that. And their donuts are mochi rice, so it's a rice-based donut, and they are delicious. And they have other things like hot dogs with cool flavors and things. So please check them out and support our small business. I also attended the Adams County Mayors and Commissioner Youth Awards. As was mentioned, it was very stark to see how much COVID shutdowns have affected our children and their mental health. So to see these kids thriving despite all that, even though it's taken them a while, is pretty important. And our support as a community is very important. Our support as a city is very important to these kids. Other than that, I also attended the DRCOG board work session. I'm an alternate on that, so I just wanted to sit in and, there's a lot of information in there. So glad to have Councilmember Kondo as the representative on that board. And then also today, I attended the legislative committee as well. So, and Councilmember Walker reported out on that. But I do just want to remind the public that even though we've had so many days off, so to speak, because of holidays, we are still very busy and still very committed to our cities with all these boards and commissions, and that is worth mentioning. Thank you. City Manager Guyer, do you have anything for us today?
I do have one thing for you, Mayor Pro Tem and City Council. Jessica Holtz, our crew supervisor, will share much more detail about this grant award when she presents to council in March as part of her regular quarterly updates. However, I did want to elevate that the city is the recipient of a $202,500 grant award through the Regional Adams County Opioid Abatement Council grant funding second cycle. Jessica and her team put together a proposal which will allow for identification and selection of 5 individuals to go through opioid treatment, as well as a 2-month stay in a sober living home. So the funding will be direct in terms of really focused on supporting those with addiction challenges in our community. So just wanted to share that with you. And like I said, Jessica will share much more detail with you in March. Thank you.
Thank you. That's really fantastic news. Thank you so much. City Clerk Small, do you have anything for us today?
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I do not have any updates tonight.
Thank you. And our City Attorney.
Good evening, Madam Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. I do not have anything to report tonight.
Thank you. Great. Moving into our financial report, we have Deputy City Manager Loveland with his new title. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Who will provide the update to City Council. Let's give him a hand.
All right. Well, thank you for the applause. That was very kind. So
We appreciate you.
thank you. So as mentioned, fourth quarter update is being presented tonight. Key point on this is still unaudited information. There will be changes between now and an audit presentation in June. So these numbers will change, but for the most part, we have a pretty good understanding of where we're at. They call it on a cash basis process on the accounting side. So I'll start off, as usual, with an update on sales and use tax. Year-to-date collections, we're at just under $26.7 million. This is up 1.3% compared to the prior year. Last year, we did have a pretty strong year, so we were expecting, some of that to fall back a little bit. And I'll touch on a couple of key indicators on that information there. First, on a couple of the good sides of things on the sales and use tax. One was our food tax being up 8.2% and auto use tax being up 3.4%. So those are both very positive through the year. Sales tax specifically is only up 0.9%. These are collections and sales through November, so we haven't hit the December information quite yet. So the main holiday season, we'll get those numbers here shortly. Early indications are that they're relatively flat when we compare it to the prior year. So not much movement from the 0.9% expected. Probably be maybe slightly over 1% growth in sales tax. A couple of areas to point out, which aren't on the slides, but they're in the packet. on page 11. If you take a look at the geographic areas that we, kind of more formally touch on at some other meetings, 8 of the 14 geographic areas are down, some of them fairly significantly when compared to the prior year. And so it's really the online sales being up 4.3% that's really kind of steadying the ship for our sales tax. So we've seen that shift since 2020 quite a bit, and it just continues through 2023 to be kind of a leader of how people shop. And I'm guessing that we're all probably in that same boat, that we do a lot of online ordering. So I just wanted to make note of that. The marijuana sales tax that we've talked about every month now, you can see on this chart here, it's the dotted line represents 2023. That continues to lag when compared to the past, down 13.3%. And you can see the other lines, stacked on top of this chart, really not comparable, even going back to 2019. Some of these numbers are comparable to maybe 2017, 2016. So we'll continue to monitor that, but no big changes month over month from what we've reported previously. So in the general fund, I'll touch on the next several items, are just our fund summaries. This chart is going to show 23 budget compared to 23 actual, show the dollar variance, and then collection or spending rate. So in the general fund, you'll see total revenues of $34.2 million. That's a collection rate of about 98.6%. You'll see some areas of collection are above what we had budgeted. A couple specific items there, licenses and permits, a lot of right-of-way work that we've talked about over the year, and just overall construction happening in the community. A lot of one-time revenue is shown there. The other piece, fines and forfeitures, revenue's up 16%. And then the other revenue, the majority of that is our investment earnings, which we've talked about over the past several months. I will point out on the taxes side, that again is only through November. So while the collection rate there is about 94%, we are expecting that to reach 100% of what was budgeted for the year. On the expenditure side in the general fund, you'll see a couple of, really one thing to point out is on the personnel side, the spend rate about 90%. That's going to come from vacancy savings. We've talked about staffing shortages throughout the year. So there's some savings that we'll see in regular wages that were planned, and then we'll see some overages and overtime to accommodate the services that we're needing to provide, being captured by overtime by not having fully staffed departments and divisions. So total expenditures of around $33 million, so a net change in fund balance. You'll see about the third line up in the middle of positive $1.1 million to the general fund. We had budgeted, expecting a reduction in fund balance of about 1.7 million or 1.687. We're expecting when we do the final accruals and finalize the year end in the general fund, that we'll likely be adding back or adding to fund balance about $1.5 to $2 million. Of course, that's subject to change as we go through the process, but that's my prediction of today of what will end up being accounted for in that fund. Moving ahead to the Conservation Trust Fund, total revenues of $560,000 and expenditures of $637,000. On the Conservation Trust Fund, $527,000 of that is from the lottery proceeds. That's actually up 8% from the prior year. Again, those lottery proceeds, we receive a share, so as those pots grow larger and larger and more people participate, this this fund receives some additional revenue. On the spending side of expenditures, the major spending there is for capital projects related to our parks and recreation. $250,000 on the Century Playground upgrades, and then another $215,000 on JC ball field lighting. So there's more detail on that on page 22. Moving ahead to the capital projects fund, total revenues of $20.2 million and expenditures of $35.4 in kind of the operating or capital side of things. Other financing sources, that's our debt service, the $4.1 million that you see there. Major projects found on page 24 include the 120th project, about $15 million invested in that in 2023. $13.7 million invested on the construction of New City Hall, $1.3 million on residential street program, $1 million invested in tennis courts, and $1 million invested in the Kiwanis Pool project. So I just wanted to touch on and highlight what the majority of that $35 million is being invested in throughout the community. And then in the water fund, we see total revenues of on the operating side, $5.9 million, and total expenditures of $5.7. I flipped my page, so I'm wrong. Let's go back to the actual water fund instead of wastewater fund. Total revenues of $14.5 million. Thanks for not calling me out on that, letting me catch myself. Total expenditures of 13.8. So we've been talking about the rainfall throughout 2023. So consumption is actually down 19.7% year over year. So you'll see in that user charges, $7.8 million of revenue versus the budget of about $9.5 million. So you'll see that, consumption overall is only, going to hit the collection rate about 82%. There'll be some accruals that are done that bring in a little bit more revenue to 2023, but overall, that's something that we, we're aware of throughout the year. But when you actually see the consumption being down 19.7%, it's kind of surprising. On the expenditure side of things, of the $13.8 million, all of the different categories, personnel and services and whatnot fall in line. Capital outlay, $7.3 million, that's the biggest line item there. Details are on page 25. The waste handling project of $4.2 million is included there. That's happening over at the water treatment plant. And then $1.1 million, the water lines associated with the Huron reconstruction project. The wastewater fund, they have revenue of $5.9 million and expenditures of $5.7. Nothing significant to report here on the revenue side. Really balanced when compared to the budget at 98.65% through the year. And then on the other side of things, on the expenditure side, all of those expenditures are within the expected spending rate, maybe a little bit light. And we may see some savings on spending within that fund. The majority of the $2.7 million capital found on page 26 is the odor control project of $2 million being spent in 2023 at the wastewater plant. All right, the stormwater fund, $579,000 of revenue and $238,000 of expenditures. Not a lot of details on either of these. Revenues are up versus the budget, and that's largely due to, we did not budget $87,500 of stormwater ARPA funding to be used towards the Huron project. But when we make the expenditure, we recognize the revenue from that grant. And so that is why the year-to-date revenues exceed the budget is due to that grant funding of ARPA funds. And then on the sanitation fund, total revenues of just under $2 million in line exactly with the budget. Then total expenditures of $1.82 million, again, in line with the budget on the operation side with personnel, fuel and whatnot. Those are the biggest expenditures, and all of those are coming in as expected in 2023. So I don't need to necessarily summarize this. One thing that I didn't touch on is general fund revenue being up 5.1% year over year. We do have some one-time revenues from the Alexan Apartments development project at Community Center Drive in Huron that we recognized in 2023. So we do see an uptick in revenues there. So with that, I'm happy to stop and I can answer any questions that you may have.
Well, yes, we do have some questions. Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So I just want to confirm what I'm seeing here with my eyes, and that is that with the exception of the wastewater fund, all the fund balances are basically higher than what was in the 2023 budget. Is that correct?
I will confirm with my eyes too.
The reason why
All of the funds are either subtracting less or adding to versus what we had budgeted. Yep.
I mean, it seems to me, you know, when we were going through the budget process, it was doom and gloom, like our fund balance is going down. But when I look at this year-end report, it looks like fund balance is actually going up. And where I'm going with this in my questioning is this happening because we're actually either having some spend controls or some expenses? And it looks like certainly in capital improvements fund, some of the expenses got pushed into 24. Is that kind of how I should read that?
That is, there are some delays in projects, you know, within the general fund for some, you know, large one-time projects, salary savings, as I mentioned. Those things happen, you know, mostly in the general fund. On the capital projects side, again, we've talked about we'll budget the entire project to happen in 2023, knowing that that's very unlikely to happen on a 2 or 3 year project, just to make sure that we have the funds encumbered. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm pleasantly surprised that fund balance is going up. And I just wanted to bring that to the public's attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kondo. I do not see any more hands. Thank you so much, Deputy City Manager Loveland.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We have made it to our consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
I'll second.
Please open the vote.
Oh my God.
Please vote.
Look at that long thing there.
We'll close that vote and the consent agenda passes unanimously.
Great. We have one public hearing, CB 2017. Will the clerk please read the title?
The bill for an ordinance amending Article 15 of Chapter 16 of the North Glen Municipal Code regarding the city's industrial pretreatment program.
I will now open the public hearing on CB 2017. Is there anyone who would like to speak either for or against CB 2017? No. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak about 2017? You can unmute yourself by pressing *6 at this time. Do not see anyone. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on CB 2017? Hearing none, I will now close the public hearing. Great. Moving into ordinances on second reading, CB 2017. And the clerk did just read the title. Is there a motion to approve CB 2017 on second reading?
Motion to approve CB 2017.
I'll second.
Great, thank you. We have Environmental Director Tammy Moon, who will provide a summary of the item. Hello, Director Moon, how are you?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm great. council members. Thank you so much for having me here this evening. Tonight, I have an ordinance in second reading for you to consider. It's CB 2017. It's a number of revisions to the city's industrial pretreatment program. I went through these pretty extensively during the first reading, but just to give you a quick overview, the ordinance updates include some language updates to bring the city's municipal code in line with the federal code for industrial pretreatment, an allowance for our food service businesses to use hydromechanical grease interceptors as well as gravity grease interceptors, depending on their preference, and then improvements or changes to our local limits, which are the limits for pollutants that we impose on our businesses. These have increased in some cases and decreased in a few others. And then finally, approval of the city's enforcement response plan. This was also required by the EPA following our inspections in 2017 and 2021. That particular document gives us guidance on how we work with our businesses that may not be in compliance with this municipal code. So that's what I have. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you. I do not see any questions. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Okay, please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote. NCB 2017 on second reading passes 7 yes votes, so unanimous of the council votes here.
Ordinances on first reading, we have CB 2018. Will the city clerk please read the title?
A bill for an ordinance amending Chapter 9, Article 4 of the City of North Glen Municipal Code by the addition of a new section 9-4-17 entitled Abandoned and Removed Shopping Carts in the Public Right-of-Way.
Is there a motion to approve CB 2018 on first reading?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Our city attorney Hoffman will provide a summary of the item.
Good evening again, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of council. This ordinance in application is hopefully very simple in terms of prohibiting abandoned and removed shopping carts in the rights of way. But in enforcement, it is across the board. So to the extent that some folks may believe that this is targeted at certain populations, it can't be, because it's not illegal, for example, to be experiencing homelessness. So this will apply just as much to anybody that removes a shopping cart from, for example, the neighborhood Walmart to take their groceries home. It applies across the board. But one of the issues that the city has discovered is that a lot of the shopping carts that are left around and blocking public rights of way in the city are from businesses not in North Glen. So because of that, this is what we believe is the best manner of enforcement, because we really don't have jurisdiction over the businesses outside of North Glen to better manage their shopping carts. So this is the remedy to attempt to address some of the impacts caused by shopping carts being abandoned, left, or used in the public rights of way and off property from those retail businesses that use those carts.
Great, thank you. Is there any discussion? No? We'll have a chance to discuss this on second reading as well. So I do not see any more discussion. So please open the vote.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see your hand.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Councilmember Nowicki, please go ahead.
Did you say there would be an opportunity, or would this be the place to ask my questions?
There will be a second reading and a public hearing, I believe at the next regular meeting of the council.
Okay.
But you can certainly ask questions tonight as well.
I will, just because I have them. And
yeah.
What would be the punishment for violating the ordinance?
This is subject to the general penalty in the North Glen Municipal Code, which is essentially up to a $2,650 fine, as well as 364 days in jail. But practically speaking, the goal is to get to compliance to the extent that shopping carts are found, they are ultimately removed from the rights-of-way and stored as are belongings, to the extent belongings are in those shopping carts. And so they're subject to our existing protocols for folks to get their belongings back if they are left in a shopping cart that's abandoned.
Okay. And do you know kind of, maybe you might not know this one, but it talked about kind of shopping carts with personal belongings. Do you know what percentage of the shopping carts they find have some type of kind of personal belongings in them?
I don't, Deputy Chief Darling May, and looks like he is approaching the dais.
And again, I understand that the city probably doesn't collect data like that, but just kind of anecdotally.
All of it. Every one of the shopping carts has something in it that would likely be personal property in most circumstances, overwhelmingly. In order for us to take that property, we would, obviously, if it's found abandoned, we would store that property for 30 days under our current policy. And then if it wasn't claimed, it would be destroyed. In circumstances where the shopping cart was actually being utilized on the public way and someone was present, the individual will have the opportunity to take their property from the shopping cart, but the shopping cart itself could be removed.
Excellent. And this might pertain to you, Deputy Chief. So would a resident call the police or continue to use kind of the Access North Glen app if they see a shopping cart, kind of whether this, and would that change if that shopping cart is in someone's possession versus if it's just kind of an abandoned shopping cart?
So it's twofold question. If it's an abandoned shopping cart, the process would be most likely like a non-emergency type process, right? If someone was pushing the shopping cart down the street and we wanted to enforce that action, non-emergency could also be used, but it would be subject to priority of police service, right? So it's not going to be a high priority for the police to respond to a shopping cart offense in the public way, okay? When we come upon them, it's more of a tool for us to be able to utilize to enforce and to reduce what we're seeing in the public with the shopping carts currently, which is not just use in the public way, but quite honestly, abandonment of the carts or storage of the carts in bushes, behind doors, behind, buildings and those type of things where they're stored for a period of time in an effort to go about their daily business and come back to their shopping carts at some juncture. So it gives us a tool in both cases, right? When we find those circumstances, we can confiscate the carts and property and return the property when it's appropriate, but we can also enforce when we see it in the public view and it's being utilized on the public way.
And I would add one thing, and it's maybe obvious, but sometimes not. These shopping carts are also stolen. So it's effectively theft. There's also provision for defacing those same shopping carts if folks attempt to remove where they got them from. That in and of itself is also a crime.
Okay. And is it a matter of, if that happens, you're able to get the shopping cart back? Is it a matter of kind of taking it right back, or is there some process by which the shopping carts have to be returned?
If the shopping cart's clearly identifiable, we can have an opportunity to return it, especially in our own community, right? We have an opportunity to return it. But we can notify them too. We can notify the business owner that this shopping cart has been recovered and they can recover it from us as well.
Okay. All my questions. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's great. We actually now have a few more questions. So Councilmember Goff.
Thank you.
You're
Mayor
welcome.
Pro Tem. Kind of had to wake up a little bit there. This is not really a question, but I just want to make a statement to the public that if you know of somebody who uses a shopping cart to do their groceries and take the cart back, this hearing, in the next hearing, is an opportunity for people to come and tell us that. If there's some, something that we're not seeing or we don't know about, that this is going to have some unintended consequence, please come and speak to us and let us know, because we really do want to know that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Goff. That is important. So this is just the first reading. There will be a second reading, and there will be a public hearing as well. So that is the opportunity for public to come forward and discuss any concerns, questions, or comments that they have related to this ordinance, as well as a chance for us to also ask more questions based off of that feedback that we get. So thank you so much. And I have one more question. Actually, I have two now. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I also just wanted to remind the community and about our crew program, which, people in our community who are experiencing homelessness or might be using these carts, DC Darlin is great, and our crew team is amazing. It's a gold standard in the area. So if you do see anybody or, have any questions, please do reach out to crew as well. They are an amazing, and that's CREW stands for Crisis Response Unit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So on page 4, it defines shopping cart as, I just lost it. A basket which is mounted on wheels or similar device. I'm just wondering, once we kind of put shopping carts in the spotlight, is there a slippery slope where now we're starting to be concerned about shopping baskets? Any thought or concern about that?
So this is not certainly an issue unique to North Glen. And so this has been modeled after similar ordinances where it has frankly been found to address exactly what it is intended to address, and we certainly hope that to be the case. I would note that frankly, there are other states that actually have a much more robust, at the state level, regulatory scheme related to shopping carts. This is, in Colorado, it's much more localized, and so we modeled it after the more effective ordinances in other communities.
Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I myself have seen 50 shopping carts near the open space at one point in time from different businesses, so it is important. It is something we have to deal with. Councilmember Nowicki, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, I have a follow-up question, and Corey, maybe you can answer this. Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So I'm close to 120th. That's kind of the dividing line. And obviously there's a shopping center on the south side. Am I right? No, West Mountains. North. On the north side is kind of Thornton. On the south side being North Glen. Do you know kind of Thornton's, I want to kind of make this clear for the residents that if we have kind of differing laws than Thornton, they may see people pushing shopping carts kind of on the other side, on the Thornton side, but not on the North Glen side. Can you speak to maybe a little bit of the Thornton, their thoughts on this?
I don't know what Thornton's thoughts are. I do not believe, though, that they have a similar ordinance in place.
Okay, so it's theoretically possible that you could see someone, again, kind of pushing shopping carts on the Thornton side, but not on the North Glen side.
Correct.
Okay, I just want to kind of make that as a primer for the public.
All I can say is that I think North Glen's experience to date has been that the folks that have removed shopping carts from business premises don't respect the boundary between North Glen and other communities.
We'll leave it. Great, thank you. I do not see any more questions at this point. Will the city clerk please open the vote?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CB 2018 on first reading passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving into resolutions, CR 6, will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of North Glen and Just BU Incorporated doing business as Star Playgrounds for the Fox Run Playgrounds project.
Is there a motion to approve CR 6?
So moved.
Seconded.
Thank you.
So many firsts.
We have our Director of Parks, Recreation, and Culture, Amanda Peterson, who will give us a summary of the item. Welcome, Director Peterson. How are you?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I'm good. This resolution would approve a contract with Star Playgrounds for the complete replacement of the playgrounds at North Park, South Park, and Central Park in Fox Run. The original playgrounds were installed in the late 90s, and although some of the elements have been replaced over the years, we have not done done a complete replacement of those structures. So some of those original pieces are over 25 years old at this point. Star Playgrounds will finalize the design of the playgrounds with input from the community. We've already had a really great response from the Fox Run residents. With help from the HOA, we had over 200 responses to the initial survey within that first, I think it was day alone, which was just a really amazing response. So really appreciate the HOA helping get information out to those residents, and really are looking forward to hearing from them what they really want to see in those final play structures before we move forward. Funding for the project is available in the amount of $500,000. That is made up of funding from ARPA and an Adams County Open Space grant. Procurement is really looking much more favorable than it was a year ago when we were moving forward with the sensory playground across the street, and we were looking at about a 40-week procurement time. We're now down in like the 6 to 8 week time frame, which is so much better. So that allows us for a late spring construction start timeline, which is great. So we are looking forward to being able to move forward on those 3 playground replacement projects. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. You talked about shortening procurement time. I'm curious also, has pricing started to come down as well? You know, we saw raw material costs go up with inflation. Have we started to see that turn?
I would say not specifically, and typically for our playground replacements, especially when we're looking at grant funding, we're really looking at trying to get the most we can out of the dollars we have available. So we're wanting to design those play structures and playground spaces to the funding that we have available and be able to get the most out of those dollars as possible.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So I noticed the budget remaining of $289. Is that enough to cover kind of any unexpected expenses that might come up?
Again, these are, because they're just straight playground replacement, there's not a lot of unanticipated expenses, and they're designing to the space, or to the space we have available. So we have a defined boundary, we know kind of what we're working with, and they will select playground equipment based on the cost. So we feel confident in this one that we don't have any surprises.
All right.
Thank you. I don't see any more questions. I just want to say thank you. I mean, when you think about playground equipment from the 90s, whew, that's a long time ago. My kids were pretty little, so.
And just to clarify,
time.
most of the equipment that you actually are playing on is newer than that, but things like those upright posts, the platforms that you're standing on, those are the older
It's historic.
pieces that have been around for longer.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR6 passes unanimously.
Thank you. CR 47, will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution of the City Council of the City of North Glen appointing directors to the Board of Directors of Carl's Farm Metropolitan District Number 3.
Is there a motion to approve CR-47? Anyone?
Motion to approve CR 47.
Second.
Thank you. We have City Attorney Hoffman, who will provide a summary of the item, and we also have George Rowley, who's attending virtually, who is a shareholder in Carl's Farm, and also, I believe, present in the council chambers is David Goldstein, who's a developer, in case anyone has any questions afterwards.
Good evening once again. This matter was brought forward by Mr. Rowley, and so I would encourage you to inquire of him and/or Mr. Goldberg in terms of the circumstances that led to the need for this resolution. But this is a statutory requirement related to the need to appoint directors to the Carl's Farm Metropolitan District Number 3.
Great. Looks like Councilmember Kondo, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I did. I guess I'm just curious, is this, thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So is this a matter of not having a property or a plot of land, which then subsequently resulted in the board being disqualified?
I don't think so, but I would encourage you to ask Mr. Rowley or Mr. Goldberg the
Yes.
circumstances of
So
why
if
this
I-
is necessary.
I may be able to ask Mr. Rowley. I see he's on the phone, on the line.
Mr. Rowley, can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. You would like to answer the
Yes, so the
question?
circumstances were that there was a piece. Yeah, so there was a piece of property that the directors were qualified on. In order to be a director on the board, you need to be the owner of a piece of property. And that property was inadvertently sold, and we discovered that subsequently and have now qualified them on a new piece of property. But in the interim, we then need the city council to reappoint that board for us to continue to function properly.
Can I answer your question? Do you have a follow-up?
No, but perhaps Mr.
Goldberg. I said
Goldberg.
Goldstein, sorry. As soon as I said that.
Maybe Mr. Goldberg would like to add on to that.
Yeah, effectively, there was a small tract adjacent to where the Dutch Brothers site is along 120th, and that was included, and it was basically overlooked. That was a director's parcel where that land was, so as Mr. Rowley pointed out, you know, when we sold that property, we needed to find another area, so we redesignated an area that we know we won't sell again. So that's the location. It's actually kind of in the roadway between 120th and 121st in the middle of the commercial site. Does that answer your question?
Yes, when you say the roadway, so the roadway will always be under your ownership?
It is currently owned by the developer and always will be, yes.
Okay, understand. Thank you.
Okay. I do not see any more discussion or questions, so thank you so much for
Thank you all for your time and
being here.
consideration.
Appreciate your time. Thank you. Mr. Rowley, thank you for your time as well. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 47 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving into CR 48, will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution designating a dismount zone for bicycles, scooters, and electric operating devices in EB Range Junior Memorial Park.
Is there a motion to approve CR 48?
So move.
Second.
Thank you. And we have Director Peterson is back.
Good evening again, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. So this resolution would establish a temporary dismount zone at the entryway to EB Rains Junior Memorial Park. And this is in response to an ordinance that was brought forward last year that defined e-bikes, e-scooters, EPAMDs, OPDMDs, and a variety of other assistive mobility devices. That an ordinance allowed for dismount zones to be established. And this would be the first of those dismount zones to be established really under that new ordinance. So to do so, staff really looked at, under the direction of council, looked at EB Rains Junior Memorial Park as a location for a pilot zone, and then brought some recommendations forward to the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for their consideration and feedback. The board discussed various options for some possible dismount zones, considering visitor use patterns, safety, the likelihood of compliance, and where those kind of potential user conflicts were in the park. And the board, although they discussed kind of some larger areas, you have some imagery in your packet, really ended up unanimously recommending not only the smallest area that staff identified, but a smaller area than what staff initially identified. And it's a small area at the bridge on the east side of the park. And really what they were looking at was that space where the trails all intersect. There's lots of people coming in from lots of different directions, all heading in different ways. And they really felt like that was the space where they wanted people to stop, slow down, look around, see where people were coming and going, and try to minimize that likelihood of a collision between a pedestrian and a scooter or a bicycle. So the resolution you have before you would ask for that small circle or oval, it's in purple on your map, to be a dismount zone. And it would apply to all bicycles and scooters, not just e-bikes and scooters, at least in this pilot project. So asking everybody, again, just to stop and walk their wheels in that space as they're entering or leaving the park on their way to the parking lot or other areas on the trail. So signage would be placed, and park rangers would provide education and information, and if needed, we wouldn't necessarily be looking to depend on this, but if needed, police support would be sought if it was deemed necessary for the safety of park users on those rare occasions. The program would then be evaluated at the end of the year and determined if the dismount zone needed to be left as it is, expanded, changed, or reevaluated for the future. So with that, I would be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Excellent. It looks like I do have a hand up. Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor. Diana, it must be, I'm getting tired.
It's getting late.
Yes, Amanda.
Yes.
And actually, I should say Director Peterson. So on the listing here, and maybe I'm just missing something, but we have this, one of these acronyms is for an electric personal assistive mobility device. And is that like a little electric scooter or wheelchair kind of thing?
It could be, and so the definitions are broad. It would not apply to someone using one of those devices under ADA.
Okay, because in the section 7-9-8, it lists that one of the EPDMD or whatever it is with everything else.
Yes, so they're all included in the ordinance, and then the resolution that was drafted specifically excludes those devices if they're being utilized under
Just to
ADA.
make sure there wasn't some kind of conflict there that would confuse.
Okay. Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Just the question I have is this warranted because there's been accidents there, particularly in that location?
That was one of the things that our park ranger looked at when they made those initial recommendations, was where they've observed near misses or potential conflict.
Okay, and I know in the past we were looking at striping and even speed limits in the park. Is that still something that we're considering, or?
It is, so this is kind of the measure we have landed on for the time being, is this pilot project as a starting point.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
Great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I do not see any more hands. I appreciate all of the work that you put into this. I know we spent so much time with all of the acronyms, OPED, and yeah, I can't even repeat them. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the pilot project, what information comes out of that. So see if it helps.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Will the city clerk please open the vote?
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 48 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving into CR 50, will the clerk please read the title?
A resolution approving addendum number 1 to the agreement between the City of North Glen and AD Miller Services Incorporated for the Kiwanis Pool Improvements Project.
Is there a motion to approve CR 50?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have Senior Engineer Daniel Martinez, who will provide a summary of the item. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council.
Good evening.
So this resolution is to consider approving an addendum to the contract with AD Miller Services for the Kiwanis Pool Improvements Project. As you know, the construction at Kiwanis has been ongoing for a couple of months now. But unfortunately, while digging around the pool shell, the contractor discovered that the shell thickness was half of what's expected per current standards. and several areas had exposed reinforcement. So they came to staff with their concerns. And the team, the staff, the contractor, and the design team got together to come up with what our options were at that point. So the design team came up with 3 options, as you see on your memo. Options 2 and 3 would improve the existing condition of the pool, but would not provide for a significant structural integrity of the pool shell, with the existing pool shell. At that point, the only viable option that staff believe is appropriate is option 1, which was to replace the pool shell. With that option, that allows us to make some significant functional improvements to the pool, including increasing the area of the surface area of the pool, adding a splash zone, slightly changing the shape of the pool, and allowing for rough ends for future play features that the city could decide to install at a later day. This addendum is in the amount of $688,073, bringing the new contract amount to $3,370,655.11. Staff recommends approval of this resolution, and if you guys have any questions at this point, I'm happy to answer it.
Thank you so much. Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, sir, for being here. Can you tell me the pool, you said pool shell, is pool and pool shell the same thing?
Yeah, the walls of the pool, pretty much, yeah.
Okay, thank you. How old is the currently existing pool?
I believe, and Amanda can correct me, about 30 years? No?
Wow.
How old is that pool? I don't know.
The 90s again?
It's kind of a fun game, though. The pool was actually constructed prior to the city's incorporation.
Oh, wow.
So standards were very different then than they are today. And so that's why we have some surprises that were encountered during that construction. It's been resurfaced since then, but we've never seen the backside of that pool.
Okay. And so with a new pool, how long might we anticipate that lasting? Another 50 years?
It should, yes.
So yeah, a properly constructed pool should last pretty much forever. It should be able to hold the soil back and stay in place. The existing pool was doing that, and that's one of the reasons why we didn't explore what the thickness and the existing condition of it was until they started digging on the back of it. When in the initial assessment that the design team performed, there were no signs of any stresses or potential failures. So we didn't look into replacing the shell at that point until they got into it.
Thank you.
I do not see any more hand. Do you have a question? Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Just so I have an understanding, what is that standard thickness now? What is the new standard?
About 8 inches.
8 inches. And I'm assuming having a thicker concrete helps us combat against our bentonite clay and heaving and all this other stuff.
Exactly, yes.
Thank you.
Okay, I have another hand up. Councilmember Roper.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Mine's not really a question, it's just a comment that we spoke about this during our Parks and Rec board. And really, the point that I loved was that you brought up that using the shell versus just the regular cement will actually help achieve longer longevity for the pool. And also lessening the depth of the pool will decrease the cost. At the same time, allowing for other features to be added, so to make it more useful.
Okay. Well, I think we need to give direction here, whether we want to move with option 1, 2, or 3. Looking at the recommendation, option 1 seems to be what we need to make sure the structural integrity is maintained. So we have council consensus for number 1. That's what we'll vote on. Megan?
Oh.
Councilmember
I thought
Burns,
we were
sorry.
I'm sorry, I thought we were going
just saw your hand
around
pop
for
up again. Go
consensus,
ahead.
so, no, I was just gonna say, if we were talking about consensus, yes, I mean, especially former Councilmember Brown, you know, she's a lot more free time, so I assume she's gonna be there a lot more this summer, so we gotta make sure it's the best option, so.
She will be really happy when she sees this. Thank you so much for your time. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 50 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving into CR 52, will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution approving an agreement between the City of North Glen and Sturgeon Electric Company Incorporated for the 104th Avenue and Washington Street traffic poles replacement project.
Is there a motion to approve?
Motion is so stated.
Second.
Thank you. And Senior Engineer Daniel Martinez is back. Welcome back.
Hello again.
Should just stay there.
So this resolution is to consider approving a contract with Sturgeon Electric for the 104th and Washington Street traffic poles replacement project. As a little bit of a background, around November last year, we received several reports from residents and traffic engineer from the city of Thornton, telling us that they were observing significant leaning on one of the mast arms poles in the middle of the intersection of 104th and Washington. This intersection had been previously identified as one of 3 intersections in need of attention based on a traffic signal assessment completed by a consultant for the city in 2022. So given the absurd condition of the mast arm, staff decided to deem the situation an emergency and instructed Sturgeon to replace the existing mast arm with temporary poles. The current lead time of the permanent poles is about 24 weeks, so we didn't feel that leaving the existing pole in the condition that it was safe. So that's why we decided to have Sturgeon. And you can see those 4 big poles on the intersection just on the span wire, just holding the traffic lights right now. So that was completed in December of 2023 by Sturgeon to keep the signal functioning while we wait for the poles. And this contract will this project will cost the city $851,540 to do the permanent fixed. If you guys have any questions?
Yes, we do. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. This isn't a question, just sort of like context for my fellow Dias members, because I live right here. That is a very accident-prone area. People hit that pole a ton, and then traffic backs up all the way through Washington. That comes through, and then people drive up super fast to my neighborhood, try and do like turnarounds on like the either side of Washington. So the faster we can get this fixed, especially now with school and with bad inclement weather, I think the better, because it's not super great right now.
Yes, and since you mentioned the poles getting hit, those were installed in the middle of the intersection. We're moving it to the corners, and everywhere we replace those old poles, we try to put them in the corner because the corners are less prone for people to hit them. Yeah, if you see any of those in the middle, they do tend to get hit more often than the other ones.
Thank you. Councilmember Acondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I'm going to go tech now. So is galvanic corrosion part of the problem here? I'm very curious as to the root causes to why this is happening. And will the replacement poles be all of a consistent same metal so you're not having that sort of galvanic corrosion event?
Yes, and I guess the main reason for the poles to deteriorate is when they get hit. And not all the time we get somebody identified who hit the pole so we can go after insurance to get them replaced. And since they are so expensive, we keep kind of procrastinating, waiting until we have the funding to do replacement. And we also were not, I don't want to say aware, but we had never done an assessment of our poles until 2022, as long as I'm here, as being with the city, which is been for 13 years, we've never done an assessment of the poles to clearly identify which ones were in need of attention and replacement.
Yes, but when I talk about galvanic corrosion, I'm talking about dissimilar metals and that sort of thing, accelerating the rusting and all this other stuff. Is that also part of this problem or no?
I don't know.
They get hit.
You know, my point is if we're gonna replace it, let's make sure that we're replacing it with a solution that's not gonna.
Yeah, and we are replacing it
part of us.
with current standards poles, the newer design that you see everywhere installed around the city.
Okay, understand, thank you.
Can I add something, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
I do want to clarify something Engineer Martinez said. I wouldn't refer to it as procrastinating. The step that the city took in doing the study that Daniel mentioned was a very proactive step, one that I don't think had been done in many years, but the appropriate right step for the city to take. And being that these poles, in particular along the 104th corridor, we've seen this on the west side of Interstate 25, in particular west of Huron. These are old poles. So to your question, Councilmember Kondo, I think technology has advanced. When we do get notified of an automobile accident where a car hits the pole, we are responsive and do go out and make sure that the structural integrity is there on the pole. Otherwise, we would take different steps to address any potential safety hazard on the roadway. So I appreciate staff taking the step to, number one, do the study, and then to act as quickly as possible to get the interim fixed for this intersection, because as Councilmember Burns indicated, it's a very busy intersection that's heavily trafficked, and we do see automobile accidents there, but this is the right thing to do. So I just want to correct, we don't want to say procrastinate, because from my perspective, we're very proactive in this regard.
Yes, and I would say that we have had insurance pay for 2 poles already. So yeah, I didn't mean that we were ignoring this one, but when it was hit in the past, it wasn't.
Yeah, on the
Well,
west side,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
we've had insurance cover
Yeah.
pole replacement.
That's excellent information, because, I mean, that is a factor we can't control, right, is people slamming into the poles, which is unfortunate and scary, and that is definitely, as Councilmember Burns mentioned, a very high accident intersection. I had the same question along the lines of Councilmember Kondo and just what the pole will be made of, but it sounds like you've done the research, and thank you for that, in moving the poles to the corners. Hopefully that will prevent some of those accidents, just because, I mean, you can make it out of whatever you want to make it, and people will still run into it, which is scary. I do not see any more hands at this point. Thank you so much for that information. Appreciate it. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 52 passes unanimously.
Thank you. CR 53. Will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution approving the assignment of the license agreement between the City of North Glen and BIF IB Intrepid OpCo LLC to Intrepid North Glen LLC.
Is there a motion to approve CR 53?
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you. Deputy City Manager Loveland is back.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem, council members. So really, I think that the purpose of this agreement is really to collaborate with the initial company that we granted the license agreement to in September of 2022 to install the fiber network throughout the community. So that initial company has undertaken a new debt facility, which is just kind of a fancy way to say a new financing structure to complete the project. And as part of their work and as part of that financing, they're being required to set up and create a new legal entity to carry that structure. And so within the original licensing agreement, the city must approve that transaction to assign the license agreement to the new entity. So With that, staff recommends approval of the assignment.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, questions? No? Looks like it's pretty straightforward. Thank you, Deputy City Manager. Open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 53 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving into CR 55, will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution approving amendment number 4 to the agreement between the City of Northglen and Anderson Mason-Dale Architects for architectural and engineering services for the implementation of Phase 2 of the Civic Center Master Plan project.
Is there a motion to approve CR 55?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. We have Senior Planner Eric Enzi here to provide us a summary of the item. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council. Staff is presenting Council Resolution 55, which is a contract amendment with Anderson Mason-Dale Architects for architectural and engineering services for the new City Hall facility. The contract amendment represents an increase to AMD's contract by an additional $51,143. This amendment would cover additional compensation for contract administration and design support incurred by AMD during review and coordination of submittals and RFIs, which are requests for information throughout the project. The contractual arrangement between the project design team and the general contractor requires multiple points of coordination and resolution of issues during the construction phase, which is why this is actually a good process for this particular project. And as a result, there were some items that were not anticipated through the design and coordination efforts with additional scope added to AMD's contract. They did spend time resolving those issues, and this did add this amount to their scope to cover those costs. So AMD is requesting compensation to cover those costs. Staff is recommending approval of Council Resolution 55. This amendment would utilize owner's contingency that was built into the $33.78 million of the project budget. So it's not increasing the budget of the project at all. It's just using some of those contingency dollars to cover these costs. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. What was our owner's contingency fund?
Yes, so
How
we
much
have,
did we
we
have?
have about 1.6 million in owner's contingency built into the project at this point, so this would reduce that amount.
Okay. Understand, thank you.
Great. Any other questions? No? Thank you. Doesn't look like we have any other questions. Appreciate it. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Moving along. Please vote.
We'll close that vote, and CR 55 passes unanimously.
CR 58. Will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution appointing a Ward 2 member to the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board of the City of North Glen, Colorado.
Move to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Applicant Vanessa Alarcon, is she in the audience still? Please come forward. Welcome. Thank you for waiting. We really appreciate your patience.
Yeah.
We would just love for you to introduce yourself to council and just say a little bit about why you chose to be on the DICE board.
Sure. Well, my name is Vanessa Alarcon, or Alarcon, if you can roll your R's. I am so excited to be here, let me just say, so I'm gonna try to stay professional. But yeah, I was interested in applying for the board because the power and impact of local government is so important. And I love that the city of North Glen has diversity as part of their strategic plan, and it's constantly talked about. And so I'm very excited to be able to join in part of that.
Thank you. We really appreciate you volunteering for the board. I have one hand up, Councilmember Goff.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. And this is wonderful to see you in person. And thank you so much for coming and volunteering, and we really look forward to having you on our board.
Thank you, Dr. Goff.
Oh, I have a couple more hands up. Councilmember Nowicki.
Thank you for being here, Vanessa. I I think I speak for Jay and I, we are really impressed with your, the way you presented and really excited to have you as part of the DICE board. So thank you
Thank you.
for doing this.
Thank you. Councilmember Condo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I am just really inspired by your level of enthusiasm and energy after sitting in the crowd for an hour and 2 hours and 20 minutes. And I'm going to just address all the DICE candidates together. Thank you for your tenacity and endurance. And hopefully you're getting a sense of what it's like to be in council and making these decisions, which can be really crazy. But I appreciate your commitment as well as everybody else that's going to come forward. Because participation in government, local government is how all of you as residents are impacted the most. And so stepping forward and rolling up your sleeves and being a part of it is really admirable. So thank you. Thank you to all the candidates.
Thank you. Councilmember Jaramillo.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Welcome, Vanessa. I'm excited to have you representing Ward 2 on the DICE board, and forward to all the contributions we'll be bringing. And yeah, we're very excited to have you, and I'm glad you're excited too. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for applying, Vanessa. Councilmember Roper, did you have something to say? Oh, thank you. I just want to say thank you. I echo all of my fellow council member sentiments. We really appreciate you volunteering and taking the time to serve on this board. It's important, so appreciate it.
Thank you
We'll see
very much.
around. Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 58 passes unanimously.
Congratulations. Thank you. CR 59, will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution appointing a Ward 3 member to the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board of the City of North Glen, Colorado.
Move to approve as so stated.
Second.
Thank you. I would now like to invite the applicant Claudia Belen Hernandez to please come forward and introduce yourself to council. And just like the other applicant, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you chose to be on the DICE board.
Yes, well, thank you guys so much for having me. My name is Claudia Belen Hernandez. I'm super excited and thrilled to be a part of this board. I think it's really important for any city to have a board like this. And so kudos to the city of North Glen, and it's an honor, and I'm really, really excited to be a part of it.
Thank you. Do we have any additional questions? Councilmember Goff?
I just wanted to welcome you and say thank you so much. And Councilmember Condo and I enjoyed our interview with you, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for applying, and, you know, we really rely on volunteers to serve on these boards and to help further all of the initiatives that we want to continue to see in the city. So thank you so much for taking the time to serve, and thank you so much for waiting in the audience for so long. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 59 passes unanimously.
Thank you. Congratulations. CR 60, will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution appointing a Ward 3 member to the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board of the City of North Glen, Colorado.
Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. The applicant, Ryan Easterling Babin, I'm not sure if I said that correctly, is attending virtually. So Ryan, if you can unmute yourself, we would love to hear a little bit more information about you and why you chose to be on the DICE board. Thank you again for hanging out for so long.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I am very sorry to have to be doing this virtual. All plans were to be there right now, but you know, life has other plans today. Very excited to be on the board. One of the main reasons I am interested in on the board was I come from a part of the country where there is not this kind of board in city government or anything like that. So very happy to be here and be a part of this.
Thank you. Looks like we might have a couple of questions. Councilmember Goff?
Well, listen, Ryan, this is not a question, but just wanted to thank you again. And I want to tell people that Ryan came to the last Pride Fest that we had and talked to me and other DICE board members and was inspired to apply. So we really appreciate that. Look forward to working with you.
Thank you so much. Ryan, we really appreciate you volunteering. As I mentioned before, volunteers are definitely the backbone of our city. I appreciate the time that you're committing. I know all the other council members feel the same. Would anybody like to add anything? Okay. Thank you. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 60 passes unanimously.
Congratulations, Ryan. Okay. CR 61, will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution appointing an at-large member to the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board of the City of North Glen, Colorado.
Is there a motion to approve CR 61?
I'll move.
Second.
Thank you. I would now like to invite applicant Shannon McDougald forward to introduce themselves to council. Welcome, Shannon. It's a good name.
Thanks for having me. You got any extra snacks up there?
It's a good name.
Thanks for having me. My name is Shannon McDougall, and I've been a mental health worker for about 17 years now. And I was inspired to join the DICE board, just a different way to give back to the community and actually just to, stay connected. And it's also an extra privilege to be doing it in Black History Month too, and being able to celebrate that and kind of spreading the awareness.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely appreciate your enthusiasm after waiting here for so long. Councilmember Goff?
Yes, I also want to really thank you for coming and sitting through all of this.
Oh,
Really,
sure.
the DICE board meetings are not this long.
What are they?
Well, good practice.
Yeah, so we welcome you aboard and we look forward to working with you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much for applying, Shannon. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Thank you.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 61 passes unanimously.
Congratulations, Shannon. Okay, moving into CR 62. Will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution appointing an at-large member to the Diversity, Inclusivity, and Social Equity Board of the City of North Glen, Colorado.
Is there a motion to approve CR 62?
So moved.
Second.
I would now love to invite applicant Lawrence Rangel forward to introduce themselves to council. Welcome, Lawrence. Thank you as well for waiting patiently.
Good evening. My name's Lawrence Rangel. I've been a resident of North Glen for about 10 years. I'm currently the judge for Yard of the Month. And, I did the North Glen Citizens Police Academy. So I'm really just continuing to try to just interject, things that I'm able to do to the community, because North Glen's a great place to live. I work for King Soopers, been there for quite a while. I have some buggy information, we'd love to get the buggies back. My youngest son is a Marine, and we lost 5 Marines last week. He's actually on the base where they were at, so have them in their prayers as well. But other than that, I'm just excited to be part of the DICE board. For King Soopers, we do have diversity boards as well. What I like about the one for North Glen is it's all-inclusive. It's not separate, like we have it at our company, we have separate boards for each group. I really like the inclusivity of this group here. So yeah, that's why I applied.
Thank you so much, and thank you to your son for serving our country. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Councilmember Goff?
Yeah, I was just going to also echo that, if, next time you talk to Ellen, that we are thinking of him and appreciate his efforts, and we're sorry for, if he knew them or whatever, sorry for that loss.
Thank
And
you.
welcome aboard. We
Thank
look
you.
forward to working with you, and I'm glad you stayed and are still here.
Well, I was interested. I mean, this is the first time I've been to one of these, so so it was really nice to see what you guys actually are doing.
It's great. It's an extra long agenda tonight. Really appreciate you jumping right in there. It sounds like you're ready to go, and
Ready.
appreciate the volunteer service, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
Take care. Please open the vote.
Vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 62 passes unanimously.
CR 63, will the city clerk please read the title?
A resolution appointing the Ward 1 resident member to the Community Co-Production Policing Advisory Board of the City of North Glen, Colorado.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I would like to invite applicant Natasha Adler. Please introduce yourself. How are you?
Hi, good evening, council members. My name is Natasha Adler. I've lived in North Glen for the past 3 years. And I was interested in joining this advisory board because it plays kind of on what I do for a living. I work with domestic violence survivors and help educate our law enforcement in Denver and work with them on how to collaborate in those spaces. And so I was really interested in being able to do that in my own community and also just building community in North Glen. I still feel like I'm very new, but I actually am seeing so many familiar faces. Claudia and I actually worked in the same building up until recently, and I went to school with your wife, so I feel at home already.
Oh, thank you so much. Have a couple of hands up. Councilmember Burns.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. Hi, Ms. Adler.
Hi.
Thank you for being here on such short notice. Councilmember Walker and I interviewed her on Thursday, and thank you again to City Clerk Smalls for assisting this and making this all happen, because we were very excited to help fill this position for Ward 1. We just appreciate you staying, for your participation, for your passion in this space. Very excited to have you on board. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Councilmember Walker.
Natasha, just want to thank you again. We were very impressed with your interview, and we thank you for applying and serving your community. Welcome
Thanks.
aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for applying, Natasha. This is a very important board, as all of our boards are, so really interested in your background. Sounds like it's a great fit for the board, and look forward to seeing all the work that you will do in the future. Thank you so much for applying.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And thank you for staying so late. Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and CR 63 passes unanimously.
Thank you. We did it, guys. Great job. That was speed interviews. Thank you so much to all of the applicants. We really do appreciate it. Moving into our only discussion item, City Manager Guyer will introduce this item to council.
So we're going to capture all of that energy and excitement and put it into agenda planning right now. To get us over the bridge
We
to
got
the
this.
executive session. We're in the home stretch. I'm here tonight to walk you through the quarterly agenda planning process. This is a process that we started last year, and it helps to make sure that there's alignment between myself and council in terms of setting the agendas. That's one of my responsibilities for the new council members on the dais. And so this evening, the goal is to make sure there's consensus on what's ahead of us. I will walk through, well, what you have before you is the tentative future agenda document. And we really focus on what's ahead up until April 1st, which is the next point in time where I'll be in front of council providing one of these updates. It's an opportunity to review cancellations as well as additions, and then seek any clarification on scope of items. That's not necessarily for staff of council, but council member to council member, if you have any questions or concerns about any items, and then reprioritization of any items. An example of that would be, say you see an item scheduled for April 15th. So an item's been scheduled for April 15th, and that's been based on me working with staff to time that item. But if there's a desire by council to hear an item sooner, then this is certainly the opportunity to make that ask of myself. Now, this item that's being presented to you this evening is a bit off schedule. Originally, I was scheduled to bring this to you in late January, but I had to shuffle some things around, which is pretty common with agenda management, so that shouldn't come as a surprise or be perceived as a negative thing. It's more of an art than a science. So I try to do my best to identify the flow of the agendas based on the number of items and the timing of items, so hence the art piece and not the science piece. I'll be back in front of you April 1st, and then you see the other two corresponding dates for the remainder of 2024, July 1st, and then August 7th. October, yeah, I said August, thank you. For 2024 cancellations, we have the cancellation next week for President's Day holiday observance. And then we will be canceling the March 11th meeting due to the lack of quorum because 6 council members are attending the National League of Cities Congressional Cities Conference in Washington, D.C. That week. That doesn't always happen when there are conferences. There are often times when a few council members go to conferences, but again, because there's a lack of quorum, it wouldn't, you can't hold a meeting. In terms of meeting additions, we have scheduled the strategic planning session on a Saturday, March 16th, and then the special meeting on March 18th because of that March 11th meeting cancellation. In terms of items to highlight, we are pretty busy in terms of looking outward and getting items scheduled. So a few things of note. For February 26th, we will be bringing the electronic participation policy and Council Protocol 7 urgent information discussion item to you. The latter item was originally scheduled for the council team building event, and we weren't able to get to that item. So that is why it's coming to you on February 26th. On March 4th, we are planning on bringing the traffic calming policy review to council. That was an item that I believe Mayor Pro Tem Luke Manharamasa asked for council consensus on. And then the response to resident requests, that item was also one of the items that I had hoped to discuss with council at the council team building session, and we didn't get to that. So that brings us to March 18th, crew, which has been mentioned several times this evening. Jessica Holtz will provide a quarterly update on that evening. And then as we progress throughout the year, she'll identify the other quarterly updates moving forward. We do have monthly new City Hall construction updates. They typically land on the second Monday, second meeting of each month. And so that'll be upcoming. We did schedule the right-of-way easements 101 request by council for April 15th. And I have scheduled the fireworks ordinance and enforcement strategy item for June 3rd. So those were 2 items on the prior TBD list. I did also add my performance review dates to the summer months because that will be just around the corner starting in July. One thing I did want to draw attention to, but I don't necessarily have it listed on the slide here, is we are working, this is an exciting thing, we are working towards substantial completion of the new building in late July, with hopefully moving into the building in mid to late August. So as we probably get closer to May, June timeframe, I will start placing certain placeholders, notations. I'll have Joanna, smaller city clerk, place those on the tentative future agendas. So you have an idea of which building we're planning on being in for which meeting. So again, really exciting that new facility is on the horizon, and there's more to come moving forward on that. So I will stop there and happy to answer any questions about any of the items that you see on the attachment. If there are any, if there aren't, that's okay too.
Thank you, City Manager Dyer. I am beyond excited to hear about the potential opening dates for our city hall. That sounds wonderful. I just want to say before we take questions that I appreciate all the work that goes into planning our agenda, because I know how difficult it is and I know how many requests that we bring forward. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
And Councilmember Kondo.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. So when we were working on the performance evaluations, I recall that perhaps maybe to change things up, maybe we ought to try the city clerk's performance evaluation first and then do the city manager second. I don't know if that is something that we would want to consider, or is it just the timing of the contract will not allow for that?
Well, I don't know what that discussion was. Joanna and I are looking at each other because we weren't privy to that conversation. What I will tell you is the current timing of our performance evaluations are based on our anniversary date. So my anniversary date is August 20th. So I start, if all things work out, and you have seen the last couple of years, it's really moved into late summer, early fall. Because of other pressing matters. So we try to get the evaluations done before the anniversary date.
Okay. And so Joanna's, the city clerk's anniversary date is in
October.
October, and yours is in August?
August 20th, yes.
All right. well,
So
then I'll-
certainly if council has a desire to do something differently with timing, then that would be I think, a discussion for another time.
Gotcha. Yes, I'm yielding the floor.
Thank you. And just to be clear, this is just through April 1st right now. So, I mean, if we want to bring that up, we can. But it sounds like we are already looking into making sure that that ties in with your anniversary date for both yourself and for the city clerk. So I do think that if that's something we want to discuss in the future, we can, maybe at the next quarterly planning. But it sounds like everything is in order as it should be right now.
It is, yes. Based on past council direction has been to make sure we get these performance review placeholder items scheduled, so that way they don't fall off or don't get moved, that we can't fit them in with other agenda items, so.
Thank you. Councilmember Kondo, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes.
Please.
Would it be appropriate for me to broach with the days a topic that I think I would like to have the group consider?
Go
Madam
ahead.
Mayor, is that okay? So given that hopefully we are now in a soft landing and we're not looking at recession, I recall about 12 or 15 months ago, we were looking at the pay for volume of trash. And that got put on the back burner. Do you remember that? It was the different size garbage cans,
Oh, the pay-as-you-go?
pay-as-you-go.
Waste optimization study.
Waste optimization study. And now that perhaps the economy is indeed turning for the better, I would like to see if we could bring that back forward again for consideration or discussion at the staff. So I'm seeking Dave's support as to whether that is worth doing or not.
City Manager Guyer, what is the likelihood of that getting on the agenda anytime soon if there is consensus?
Not likely. I think my recollection, and council can correct me if I misspeak, this item was put on hold not only due to recessionary pressures, but also political feasibility. So my understanding was that council would reevaluate where waste optimization study fits during the strategic planning process. So if there's a desire by council to move that work forward, the work was done, the implementation, there was not council buy-in to move forward with the implementation. So there would need to be a majority of council that would want to see that work move forward. And I would say it would be most appropriate to bring it up during strategic planning and prioritize it with strategic planning and the budget ahead, so 2025 city budget.
Thank you. That is actually my recollection as well, is that at that time, we decided not to move forward with it. I do think that it is a more appropriate discussion for our strategic planning, since that's when we'll be looking at potential budget implications and so forth. Councilmember Goff, I just saw your hand.
Yeah, I just have one little comment that I have heard through the CC4CA, our lobbyists, that there is some discussion at the state level for some new laws or even funding around. It's not real clear to me what that is yet. It would be interesting to find out what that is before we decide.
Makes sense.
Okay, so I'm going to retract my proposal.
Would you like a follow-up question, or is
No.
everybody good with just leaving it
Yep.
for strategic
Strategic
planning?
planning, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That sounds great. Thank you. I do not see any more questions.
Great.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you, City Manager Guyer. Moving into public invited to be heard. This is an opportunity for public comment. Statements are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. Comments must be related to an item previously addressed by council during the meeting. Is there anyone in the audience left who would like to speak to council at this time? Please, thank you, those of you that are here. We appreciate you being here. Is there anyone on the phone who would like to speak to council? You can press *6, and I'm saying that, but I don't see anyone. Okay. Looks like we do not have anyone. Moving into executive session, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn to executive session pursuant to Section 4.5D of the City of Northglenn Home Rule Charter for legal consultation and advice regarding 1, managing public spaces, 2, executive session process, 3, social media policy, and 4, the Justice Center.
Move as so stated.
Second.
Please open the vote.
The vote is open.
Please vote.
I will close that vote, and the motion to adjourn to executive session passes unanimously.
Thank you. We will now adjourn to the executive session. Council can take a short break while they break down everything.